Welcome to Facebook Live. We have a little bit of a change of topic today, mainly because of the news coming out earlier this week that Rodgers is approved to play this weekend. So we wanted to take a minute and just kind of touch on that and discuss a little bit about what the controversy is and a little bit of some opinions about whether he should actually be on the field. So obviously he was cleared to play. There was a lot of deliberation that went into it. He's got his team physicians, but then I know they called in additional specialists and some other people to take a look at the case and help make the decision. And I think what I'd like to say about the topic is that if there's that amount of deliberation and you need to call in that many specialists to weigh in on whether he's had enough healing time at 8 weeks post-surgical, I think that kind of answers the question largely for us. They did a lot of testing, a lot of talking, taking a look at how he's been performing, how he rehabbed. He's obviously been practicing a little bit the last few weeks. So there was a lot of information that went into it that we as consumers or we as outside parties don't have access to. So obviously that can change the decision a little bit. But what I want to focus on is a little bit about the physiology of healing and the biology that goes into it. We're not going to make it super heavy on the sciences, but you can't fight physiology. You can't make tissues heal faster than they are physiologically capable of healing or than the biology really allows. You can use bone stimulators to try to stimulate bone growth to go faster. You can use diet and nutrition and rehab and lots of different factors all put together into a very strategic package to try to speed healing as fast as possible. But there are certain processes that have to happen before healing occurs. So let's talk about just in general what that process looks like. Whether you cut your hand, you have surgery, you need to develop bone around hardware, doesn't really matter. Let's talk very generally about the process that happens. When your body starts to heal, it has to go through processes of building tissue and then remodeling tissue and then strengthening tissue and then building endurance and speed and power out of that tissue. So let's take just a really broad overview. Let's say you cut your hand and your body's going to start forming kind of a scab. It's a big enough cut that you know it's there. There's a scab there. Initially after the injury, that scab can get peeled or pulled off really quickly. And then over time, that scab becomes a scar. And at first, that scar is going to be really red and thick and raised. And then that tissue gets remodeled from that red, thick, raised tissue into lighter tissue, more mobile tissue, as those collagen fibers become stronger and healthier. The more strong, the more healthy, the more time they've had to repair, the more likely they are to be able to put up with loads put on them, especially under fatigue like in a football game. So here's another analogy. As you're going through that process, your body first starts making collagen deposition or calcium deposition, kind of like dropping a box of matchsticks. You drop the box of matchsticks, the fibers kind of go everywhere. You've got a mess of matches on the floor. Your body comes back later and organizes those matches into nice little neat rows to be able to put up with load. At this point in time, 8 weeks post-surgical, I don't think Rodgers has had enough time to take those matchsticks and line them up into nice neat little rows. If they're maybe starting to get organized, I think that's probably where he's at. Now those tissues have to be able to form strength and endurance and put up with a lot of loads. Football is a contact sport. We're talking about his throwing arm, like we talked several weeks ago. You also have to take a look at mechanics elsewhere. How is his shoulder blade stability doing? How does that attach down into his hips? There are a lot of factors at play in terms of those healing processes. So my concern, and obviously the concern of his medical team, part of why it took so long to deliberate and decide if he was really ready to go back, is whether those tissues are ready to put up with the kind of load they need to be to put up with a full-length game where you're putting those tissues under a lot of repetition of throwing, a lot of fatigue throughout the length of the game, potential contact hits. Although the fibers may be started in terms of that organization process, 8 weeks post-surgical fights the physiology of really having strong, stable, healthy, endurance-based tissues that can put up with that. And then you add to it the function of the surrounding joints and the surrounding tissues that also have to be able to recover from the surgical process as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Hopefully he stays healthy over the course of the games. Only a couple games left, and we'll see how the season plays out. But that's my 2 cents on the Rodgers situation. Thanks for joining us.